Hello, everyone. I'm Kipp Snow. I'm the director of the Transportation Distribution Logistics Institute at the Community College of Baltimore County.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Singer, Community Manager, Baltimore and Chesapeake Bay Shipwatchers. We are a local maritime advocacy group, and we help to promote all things to do with the port.
Sounds good. How was your week this week?
Pretty good. Pretty good. So episode 11, since we can count.
Now we're getting into those double digits of,
Ooh.
Hey, we're past the single ones.
Right. And we're coming up on a quarter of a year. Episode 13 we've been doing this for a quarter of a year.
That's crazy.
The math.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty cool. So if you're watching this, give us a like, subscribe, pound that like button on YouTube. We had, I forget what it was, like 350 views this week, which was cool. We've got 140 some subscribers, so we really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Lets us know that this crazy idea that we had and that my buddy Matt, shout out to Matt Abbott, who has been with me in the group since, I don't know, month number 2, and always has a bunch of great ideas that it seems to take me forever to implement. And I go, okay, yeah, Matt, you were right. So shout out to Matt Abbott. He said, here's what you got to do. You got to get out there and do something on the regular. And so all those numbers let us know that people are watching, and maybe we have something good here that people like.
Exactly.
Maybe.
You got some ship watching updates, some ships in and around this week?
Yeah, let's hit the shipping update. First off, a correction from last week. I had said from one of my sources that barges were coming up from Norfolk with containers from the Dolly, right? And you and I had a whole speculative conversation about that, and that was wrong.
Oh.
So they are from the Dolly. They just came from here. So containers that were removed here in Baltimore. And it's interesting, right? Because when were they removed? I don't, the timeline is,
Well, at any given time while the ship had, from the point that it had hit the bridge, I mean, they were pulling containers off and storing them in various terminals.
Right, a month, maybe in the month to 2 month range or something. So it's been another month or 2, 3.
Yeah.
So where have they been all this time, and why take them to Seagirt now? So that was the beginning of this week. So they were containers from here, not from Norfolk. So let's get that. Is that our first podcast correction? Episode 11. Not bad.
It's not going to be the last. So
no, it won't be. And so let's talk about container ship schedule. Probably one of the most important things about the port recovery, we keep talking about how things are getting close to back to normal. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that is seemingly is not back to normal is how many containers are coming in. All right, here we go. All right, so here's the website, BaltimoreShipwatchers.com. If we go over to shipping links, okay, go to the third one down, container ship schedule. And here we go. This is the Ports America public website. Anybody can look up this schedule at any time and know what's going on with the port. So I like this because, getting specific information, right? Pre 9/11, there was that little section in the paper that told you what ships were coming in to town. Yep. And what they were bringing and how long they were going to be in town, and all that stuff is kind of behind a firewall, or you have to be an industry member to get that information, and we understand the security behind that. But so it is good that people can actually look this stuff up themselves and at least see partially what's going on with the port. So you can basically track the recovery of the container ships coming back to Baltimore yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right through our website. So kind of interesting. 11 the next week, I'm talking about container ship quantities,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then it's kind of interesting how I think, and so we can see how this Evergreen ship, the Everfame, is only here on one day. It was here for 2 days. So just want to point out how dynamic this schedule is, how things move around, and how it's not just a snapshot in time. They put it. You come to this schedule, it's updated regularly. So it's not like they put a PDF up of the schedule and they leave it up there all month and there might be some inaccurate information here. I mean, I'm sure stuff is dynamic and things will happen that aren't the way it's seen here. But
more than likely also that this information, the public facing information, is probably tied to something in their ERP system or terminal management software. And, this is probably tied to like their labor decisions and things like that. So they've got a public facing, a summary of what the ships are, but the terminals have to plan this out as far in advance as they possibly can so that they can see, okay, well, a ship is a day late. We're going to have to adjust that because we also, on the screen here, and it's also tied to the labor because we can't have the longshoremen showing up when the ship is not here. Proper scheduling with things just, and that's just one example of why there's the way that the planning takes place.
Right. And just so, like, each crane is, 30 people. So each crane comes with a gang of 30 people that help run that crane. So, you've got to know how many cranes am I running? Which cranes am I running? Is this the really big ship like the Everfame or the Titan the next week? Okay, that's got to be berth 4. And so that moves everybody else down. And then I think they even, and I had a source at Ports America, but he's moved on up. So
also they also have to plan out their labor for the in terminal moves. So
right.
Once the containers are moved off, is it going straight out, or is it going to be stored out on the yard? Is it going out onto the rail line that's that's going to be moved out? So they have to plan for those aspects also, and that's why this is important.
Right, because you've got they pick the container up and then they drop it. Well, where do they drop it? They drop it on a truck that's waiting. Right, drops on the chassis or trailer. Then he drives off. Next truck comes up, drops it on the chassis, right? And that just never stops. And then they have the rubber tire gantry cranes that move stuff around internal to the yard, right? So yeah, and not to mention all the trucks coming in to take stuff in and out. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that has, but just wanted to kind of show, like, I think, like, look how heavy Wednesdays are, which is interesting, right? And then you can see some ships are like this service, this orange. What does this say? Is this ARRC? I don't know which service this is. There's like 4 oranges down here, but you can see like they're always here on like a Saturday, like the Columbia Freedom, which is the barge, which is the barge that runs Philly, Norfolk, Baltimore. That's always here on a Friday, or scheduled for Friday. This week it was here on Thursday. It was here a day early. But anyway.
I also noticed that some of the ships that are named here, not every ship here is coming into Seagirt Terminal.
Is that true?
Because I see some that are on here that.
Oh, I didn't know that. Are you talking about like the Conroes, like Atlantic Star on the 5th?
Yeah, I think because Ports America Chesapeake also services the container operations at Dundalk, and so there are a little bit of container operations at Dundalk, and the cranes, the blue cranes that are out at various places. Some of those hybrid ships, the Conroes,
the smaller Conroes, the Grimaldi Conroes, which are white and yellow if you're watching the camera, or there's a I don't know what to call them. There's like Arabic writing. There's a Conroe that comes in. It's Arabian ship.
Okay.
And so those don't go over to Seagirt, but the giant Conroes, right? We talked about this before.
Yes.
The largest Conroes in the world. There's 5 of them. They all come here to Baltimore, which is kind of cool, I think. But those ships move back and forth. They do Dundalk and Seagirt.
Correct.
Right. So, if you go to if you pull up the schedule, you can see how August is really filling out now. So now that we're halfway through July, so it's kind of interesting to see the dynamics. So just got the word on Tuesday that the Antares and the Denobula, so the 2 ready reserve ships at North Locust Point. So if you're in Canton, or if you take maybe the water taxi, or if you're near the Under Armour campus, or maybe in Fells Point, you can see those 2 big ready reserve ships that are just across the way. Not the ones that are over here in Canton, but the ones that are just across the way. So they're leaving for good. And then the story behind that is the Antares. I can't. Why? Like, I can talk until I get in front of this microphone, and then this all goes up. Is going to deep layup, and the Denobula is relocating to make room for other MARAD ships for this pier, which I find interesting.
I know that MARAD moves ships around. Maybe it's in anticipation of things that are happening in the theater, or just
right.
It could be that they've got ships that are before or after maintenance, and they just put them back into service. It could be a whole host of things.
Right. And I was looking for. I've got a file. Wanted to show this if I can. If it wants to cooperate here. Okay, so I'm just going to show this for a moment. But when you're talking about the theater, and then I knew I had a file that shows, this is public file, that shows the map of ready reserve ships and which ships are stored where.
Yes.
Now, this is an old file. It's from 2017, but it got me thinking. So if you need to go to Europe, when we're talking about theater, if you need to go to Europe, then if you needed a certain ship, wouldn't you want it pre-positioned on the northeast Atlantic coast, so it's a little closer? I don't know. I'm guessing, right? Because this is part of why we have 15,000 group people in a Facebook group, and now we have a podcast going on week 11. Because Mike is like, why is this happening? Just curious, right? People want to know, and so.
So the purpose of these ready reserve ships is to help support the military fleet in times of need, and that could be war torn environments. It could be humanitarian. If there's a hurricane or something that comes through, sometimes these ships get activated with supplies and the equipment that's needed. And there's a skeleton crew that is
maybe 5, I think.
Right, that the government contracts out to maintain that ship. But if a ship gets activated, they have 72 hours to fully load the equipment with whatever the manifest is supposed to be for that trip, and for that crew to be on the ship ready to go. So it's.
And I think, if I may, that. Because there's a category, right? And if you're, I don't know, shout out to Colt 45, one of the guys on the camera chat, because he always has. Whenever we talk about the ready reserve ships, he's always like looking it up, and he said, "Oh, they're in the so and so status, which means they've got 3 to 5 days to spend." Right. I think that's just. Because I don't think we have anything here. We don't have any military hardware here, right? So I think that's just Okay.
It may not necessarily be straight military equipment. It could be just heavy equipment.
What I'm trying to say is I think the 3 to 5 is just spinning it up and getting it manned to leave, to go to where under power, ready to go. But maybe I'm wrong.
So one of the tours that we took our teachers through, they explained that 72 hours is for everything, and that it is mass chaos trying to get these quick items either ordered or pulled from a staging area. So it's not like they are going and on minute one going, hey Costco, please let me get 500,000 cases of water. They've got some warehouses and things in strategic areas with certain products that are stockpiled or in a contractual agreement with heavy equipment that upon activation we get first dibs. And so it's 20, that 72 hours is a contiguous. Is that the right? They're
gonna ping you on that one, dude.
They're probably gonna ping me on that one too. So it is a finite time to get the ship completely loaded, and they have a process in place that says for this particular situation you're going to need these items, and here's where we're going to get them from, and it's a huge logistical operation within a 72-hour period to get this thing up and going. Because if you think about it, if there is war declared somewhere or some type of, you can't wait much longer than that moment in order to get everything out.
Right. And I thought it took at least 3 days to spin these up and man them, just that alone. But
that's what the purpose of that 5-man crew there is, to go and man it. Not only prep the ship, have it ready to go, but what they're doing the rest of the time is making sure that the ship is prepped, ready to go in case they get the call.
Yeah. Here, so let me show you. I just want to show this map real quick here. So this kind of goes to what I was saying. So
yes.
Right. So you look at all these places where these ships are stored, berthed, whatever. And like Baltimore, I mean, of course, Norfolk, Portsmouth is a big contributor, right? But, here's Baltimore, and then there's one in Philly. Well, that was in 2017. But so it does kind of show you that we are one of the closest ready reserve ports to Europe, for whatever that's worth. And then the USNS Soderman, which is one of the ones that is like Clinton Street. So
yes.
Right? So there's 2 there. And that headed out this week on Wednesday. And they're in Norfolk now, so I don't know what that.
Okay.
So it is. I wanted to say, when you talk about these ships, and they're not all the same. So this one, so the Soderman is a LMSR, so a large, medium speed roll on, roll off ship. So, part of the military Sea Lift Command. It's part of their pre-positioning program. So, we kind of know all that stuff. And named after William A. Soderman, Medal of Honor recipient in World War II.
Okay.
Yeah. All
right. Got some movement on the John Brown this week, it sounds like.
Yeah, so we had talked about, a fundraiser, and there were some online articles, and there were some local news stations that did. WBAL did a story about them trying to get their fundraising because, and then you and I can go into this, because they needed money to go to dry dock.
Yeah.
So I found this interesting. The boilers were lit at 4 a.m. Saturday. So they could leave at, I don't know what it was, 10 or 11 o'clock.
So
It's not like the newer ships, and it's not like getting in your Civic, turn the key. Oh, yep, it started. Now should I let it idle first before I leave, or you've heard that whole argument? Not, it takes a while to get one of these World War II 80-year-old triple steam expansion engines. Right, you're not just hitting a button. It's
right.
A wee bit more involved than that, and maybe we can go into that.
It's a
podcast 56, maybe. Okay.
That actually would be quite kind of interesting. I wonder if the Brown volunteers would be interested in like videoing the process of starting it all up.
Oh, let's do that.
And I think that would be interesting to kind of showcase and explain to the listeners on that.
Oh, let's make that happen. Oh, yeah.
Add that to our to-do list.
Yeah, add that to the to-do list, would you?
Yeah.
Well, then, so she's leaving and going to a shipyard down in Norfolk, Killanis Shipyard. Be there for a month for periodic inspection and repair and painting in the dry dock. Which is required by the Coast Guard. Can you speak to that at all? What that requirement is? And I'm going to put up some pictures while you're...
Yeah, sure. So, ships periodically have to be inspected by the Coast Guard. Now, if they're in the water, they are subjected to elements. And so, if you want those elements to, or if you want the ship's integrity to remain at a certain level, then yes, you've got to do the maintenance, whether or not the Coast Guard says, you've got to go and do your maintenance or not. You need to maintain your equipment. But also remember that, the John Brown
he has passengers, right?
What's that?
Sorry. Did I steal the thunder? She has passengers. They do cruises.
Oh,
so that kicks in.
Well, the thing with the Brown though is this is a volunteer crew and a nonprofit organization that's operating this thing. It's not like they have a significant stream of revenue coming through. So they do have passenger cruises as fundraisers, just like what you were explaining. And I think in this particular trip, they had the eBay auction for a couple of people to
ride along.
To ride along, and I think I saw on there that the part of the excitement was to live in the quarters, but if they're throwing them in the bunks in one of the main holds, that's
yeah, you're gonna. So you want to ride in a World War II warship, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But even that
and pay for it.
Right, and pay for it, yeah,
and pay for the experience.
But it is a great. How many other times you're really going to get a chance to ride along on a World War II ship? It's
right, and then we all have our, especially us guys, right? We all have our passions and our hobbies, right? And so you get 2 for 1. You get to contribute, and you get to experience it at the same time. So,
but it's also a working ship, so there are. Yeah. It's not like you can just ride along. There's actual work that has to be done with, and
I think maybe they'll probably, hey, do you want to help out? Do you want to learn? And I mean, I would think. I don't know the specifics. Do you know what the final was on the eBay auction? Was there more than one? I thought it was only one.
I think
the auction for quantity 2 people, or
I think that's what it was. It was a one auction for 2 people. I don't know what the final bid was for.
So here she is, pulling away from the pier where she shares with the Savannah, looking back, and you can see. I don't know if you can see way back. I'm looking. You can see here's where some of the tugs are stationed, where they keep the tug. So here's another. This is a cool shot.
Wow.
Steaming out on her own power, headed towards the Key Bridge. Thought that was a nice shot. So all these pictures are from either the Liberty Ship organization themselves, or one of these is from John Lovelace. So,
Oh, okay.
And then I'm putting the cart before the horse a little bit here, but here's
Okay.
what it's going to look like when they get down there a month from now, when they get it all repainted, practically going to look like a new ship, and then this is
that is a cool
awesome,
shot.
Dramatic shot. I would almost pay to be down there.
Yeah, it is really cool to to see a shot like that and completely out of the water. They'll do some minor repairs or some, if there's any steel that needs to be cut out and rewelded, knock your barnacles off.
Right. And I wish
do
I
your repainting.
Knew and understood, maybe so you can see the anodes here to counteract corrosion on the keel here, right? And kind of see those little white dots. Well, they're not white dots; they're probably big chunks of metal. Yeah, pretty cool.
So we should keep track of them and this particular trip. I know that they're down there for about a month or so. So
yes. We added another map to the website. So if you go to the website, BaltimoreShipwatchers.com, it's all the way over to the right. There's a port maps, a whole page of port maps. So all the way down the bottom, there's a new port map that shows Dundalk Marine Terminal.
Yeah.
And all the different companies that work there, and all color keyed with all the different areas that all the different companies work in and who works at what berth and which sides. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. Anything we can do to get more information out to the people and so they can help them to understand how the port works.
It's also interesting to see that, like, and I knew this from some of the school stuff, but to actually see all the different companies that are in and involved with doing the importing and exporting processes. It's not just a one company situation. There's a lot of players that are involved.
Right. And you think about Dundalk Marine Terminal, you got the NYK ships that almost always go to berth 1, which is up by the bridge that's under construction.
Yep.
Colgate Creek, I think it is, right?
Yep.
And then up on the corner, you see the small ships that come in with like maybe paper or some other products. They're in like, what is that, berth 3 or 4 or 4 or 5, and then out on the face, like along the river there, that's where the Wallenius Wilhelmsen ships go, and sometimes there's 2 of them sitting there. So they all have kind of their normal place that they each go. And I guess their equipment or people are there in a certain area.
And all of the pulp and paper go into some of the sheds that are right there on that corner also. So there is kind of a thought process as to why certain ships are going to certain berths and how things are stored, because they're looking at the product flows through the terminal. It's kind of it's kind of like in high school class we did relay race and gym class. And, we talked about going from point A to point B really fast. Don't make loops. You're trying to make a linear line between those 2 straight points. And here I was trying to be faster, running in a circle, and was actually running a further distance. So port operations, they actually go and look at the actual moves and put things in processes in place to make the product flows as linear as possible to reduce those costs.
Right. And reminds me of was it UPS who several years ago said, okay, we're going to look at what we're delivering and we're going to try to map out the route so that we put as many right-hand turns into the route as possible. Which
they actually did a scientific study and realized that it was quicker and uses less fuel in order to turn left, if they make 3 rights go right, and some of that is because you can either write on red or the time process, the average time process to make a right hand turn versus a left hand turn. You're making a left hand turn and you're idling,
for 5 minutes or
you're wasting that time, and then your vehicle has those emissions going out. If you can make 3 quick right turns and get to the same point, it's going to be quicker, and it's going to be, address the environmental aspects.
Interesting. Good point.
All right. So, any other Key Bridge? Have we got some updates on our bridge process?
Yeah. So, is this the article we talked about last week?
We may have. I believe we talked some about this process. Yes.
Right. But it is interesting because it says the remaining Key Bridge structures will be blasted, demolished, and make way for a new span. And so when you read that, what does that automatically say? What do people automatically think? They're going to blow the whole thing up, right?
It's going to be a huge crater, and yeah, everybody's going to have to take cover. And no,
mouse clicks, dude. Mouse clicks.
Just click on it, read it.
Right. I mean, and then when you read down, the project may include mechanical demolition. So you went from, oh my God, they're blowing the whole thing up, to it might not even happen in a space of like 3 lines.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dramatic of just for mouse clicks kind of gets on my nerves, especially when it's your local media and it's dealing with a subject that you're passionate about, right? Because what do? We're community managers, right? So then we've got people talking about it, and then we need to say, well, no. I know it said structures will be blasted, but then if you just read down a little bit, it says may include mechanical demolition.
Yeah. Anyway, so I mean, also think about the types of when a blast or a demolition blast. This is going to be a very controlled, if you think about some of the maybe videos that you've seen of buildings being collapsed in a controlled blast environment. It's going to be just like that. Will you be able to stand on the bank and watch them and see an explosion? Sure, absolutely. Are you going to be able to hear it? Yeah, you'll be able to hear it a little bit, but it's not going to be hey, we've got to evacuate half of the city in order to go, and we have to have, tons and tons of dirt to come back in and fill in these holes that we're going to.
Right. But I think I would imagine that Fort Armistead might be closed. I mean, depending on what they're doing, depending on how far.
Well, look at when they did
Of course, I'm speculating here, but
sure. Well, look at the structure when they blasted part of the structure off of the dolly. It was a controlled environment. They had a zone set up around it for safety purposes. It'll be the same kind of situation.
That was wild, man. That was wild because we knew when the time was, right? And my wife and I are sitting here watching the live stream camera. And they had said, oh, it won't be that bad. It'll kind of be like firecrackers going off. Like, really? Okay. Firecrackers. All right. And then we're watching the laptop, and then we hear this boom. Okay. So we are at least 3 miles from the bridge. So we're on the water here. So 2 miles out to the Patapsco River. Like right across from where Sparrows Point, and then I don't know, maybe another mile to the bridge. So at least 3 miles, and there's a whole neighborhood and a bunch of trees. We couldn't even see the Key Bridge when it was there. And so and then of course you hear the sound, and then it was wild. That was kind of surprising, but anyway.
Sure.
So I wanted to share this timeline graphic. So I thought this was pretty interesting. Let me get here. So this is like pretty significant.
Oh, so yeah, I saw this week.
Right? So just, so we keep talking about how this is a sped up process and how much they are trying to get things to. Now, am I going to be able to? Oh, look at the. Okay, this is cool.
Oh, look, there you go.
See, I know what I'm doing. How did that happen? I don't know. So this is projected permitting timeline for removal of stable structures. So I guess that's what we're talking about, the removal of the rest of the bridge, which is that article that we were just talking about. And you can see, okay, so there's a public hearing coming up August 1st. And then there's some public comment timeline with, and then I guess there's two different, and I don't know, I'm guessing here. So I guess if there's public comment and no opposition, you have the timeline on the left. And if there's public comment and opposition, then you have to go through the timeline on the right. But it both meets at September 27th. So I guess that's the potential, okay, we're done the approval process. Now we can
award and move forward.
Yeah. Well, I think it's already been awarded. I think
you're correct.
A couple weeks ago.
You're correct. You are correct. They did award it. This is just the process that we have to go through in order to actually start.
And I just thought it was interesting to see that huge graphic of all those steps. And this is the sped up process.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is like, this is the sped up process. This is not even the regular process.
So do me a favor. Run through your introduction for me again about who you are, what you do. Run just like at the beginning of the COD podcast. I am Kipp.
My role I'm at the Community College of Baltimore County, and my role is all of the transportation and logistics programming that the college offers.
Okay.
So I'm involved with continuing education, and my role is to help with any type of technical training that may exist, not just at the Port of Baltimore, but across all the modes of transportation. We have some aviation courses, and we also have a CDL range where we have 5 trucks and trailers, and we're a third-party tester, so you can come through our CDL range and get your CDLA licensure and the like.
Wow.
But we also have we do have an academic program, but we also do professional development opportunities. And so this week was our week-long maritime educator externship, and this is a week-long professional development for educators. So in the secondary market, your high school teachers, career counselors, guidance counselors. If you're an administrator of a school or a particular program, we want you to come in for the week. And this is a crash course, no pun intended. Vehicle.
Yeah, you can't say that anymore.
Yeah, I can't say that. Yeah. So this is a week-long immersion within the transportation logistics industry with a focus on the maritime and the port logistics operations. So we partner with the Port of Baltimore and the Baltimore Port Alliance to host these teachers for a week, and they get a chance to do field trips, site visits, in and around terminals, depending on ships' schedules. Sometimes we're able to get up and tour some ships.
Nice.
And so what the goal here is that
kind of a well-rounded tour of
So these, what we're trying to do is teach the educators about the maritime and port logistics community from the start of the supply chain to the end of the supply chain. And along with that, we want them to understand what the career pathways are, so that they can go and tell their students what these career pathways are, and then what the related academic pathways that they have to follow to get those jobs. So instead of going and just assuming that the transportation industry is truck drivers and longshoremen, which includes that, there's many, many, many other jobs that are connected to the port. So their goal is to go through the week, and then go and do something within their school to help educate those students on what those career
So
paths
you got some bullet points, like what did you do the 5 days? You got maybe some pictures and stuff?
Yeah, I got some pictures. There's a couple of pictures that I really want us to see, which was really cool.
I remember that one specifically. Yeah.
Yeah. So Monday we were out at General Ship Repair, and Ryan Lynch gave us a tour of the dry docks. Yeah, that was
which is interesting because they don't have a big social media presence, right?
You don't see them too much out there like that, but they were just talking about they're about to have their 100th year anniversary.
Another one? That's like well, I mean, I know there's more than 3, but the big 3, right? Vane Brothers, Ruckert. Now, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, Ruckert.
Okay. Vane Brothers, Ruckert, and Domino. They all, and Vane Brothers just had 125 years, right? So
it's all right there at the beginning of that industrial or that industrial revolution time frame.
That's
sure,
cool.
Tuesday we were at the public terminals, Dundalk Seagirt. We spent a little bit of time that morning out at Masonville Cove and the dredge material containment facility.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday we were out at MITAGS, and which is the Maritime Institute of Technology and Graduate Studies, and so that's where you can go to get all of these.
They do a simulator there too, right?
That's one of the maritime schools where you can go to get your captain's license credentialing to go and operate these very massive ships. We took the teachers there to learn about that, but we also had a chance to go into the simulators there. And I'd like to pull up the
and it's right down the street. I mean, it's right by BWI. It's crazy that and I'm sure people drive by it because it's right off the parkway, right? Don't they have it? Isn't there a sign there so you can plainly see? But I'm sure people that aren't familiar with the port are like, oh, I wonder what they do.
What that building is? Yeah, so it's a school that's a maritime training school. So I'm going to hit this. I think that I've. So this is this is inside one of the simulators that they have there, and it's used as a training simulator, but they also sometimes partner with industry to go through scenarios. So right during the Kipp Bridge collapse, they'd actually done some work with the pilots here locally to simulate some of the work that they needed to do as part of the
recovery. Like a restricted channel and how they were how that really looked or.
Correct. So they could go in and customize those types of situations, but also within the training environment, they can also simulate lots of different types of environments. So different ports of call, different weather environments. At one point, they cranked up the big heavy seas, and we were all leaning sideways, going, "Oh, we're about to get sick." And the room itself was stationary, and so they could. But it helps them to go and learn how to navigate in those environments. So
they don't have like water in there. They're not like throwing. There's not like spray.
No,
with like the wipers going and.
Yeah,
it's not to that level.
Not to that level, but the sounds, there are some sounds in there that's like makes it pretty realistic.
Wow.
So this is a picture of on the bridge. You can see this is Baltimore Harbor. You can kind of see over on the left hand side is the aquarium in this particular picture.
Can I ask you a question?
What's that?
I don't want anybody else to hear this. I don't want anybody else to hear this that's listening to the podcast. Can you get us a tour?
Oh, yeah.
Can you get the ship watchers a tour? Okay. Nobody heard that, okay? Right? Yeah, it's our little secret. Okay.
We can figure that out. Yeah. That's easy.
Sorry to interrupt.
So this is that environment for, being able to get that perspective. So
you can see the aquarium on the left there.
Yeah,
that's coming out of the harbor.
Yeah, this is
out of the inner harbor. Oh, cool.
This is the inner harbor. This is I think this is a little bit further into the cruise. I think that's part of Fells Point over there in the background. These are some of the teachers that were here for the week. gentleman in the tie is with MITAGS walking us through. But so they can actually change the scenario here. And so this was this past week. This is they put up as the harbor as if it was before the Key Bridge.
Wow.
And I wasn't, to be honest with you, I wasn't fully prepared for this, to be able to see this from the bridge perspective, because I'd had some opportunities before to see this before,
Yes.
through some of the tours and things.
And if I could just take a moment, I mean, I know it's, it was a tragic loss of life, and, a bunch of people were affected by this. Their livelihoods were affected by this. You shut down a whole port that does what, $15 million a day. But it is interesting how emotionally attached we are to a structure.
I think it means lots of different things to lots of different people.
Yeah.
And you can't let that go.
Yeah. Or think it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's okay. We all have
it is what it is. So
yeah.
They messed with the moon in the background a little bit. That was kind of funny to see it as big as it was.
Or did they do like a Jim Carrey and like lasso it and like pull it down?
No, they didn't quite do that. No. But she was adjusting it. I think in this particular image, she should put some aurora borealis clouds. You can see some of the green.
Wow.
That was kind of cool to look
Not
at.
The green fog from a horror movie.
No. But this next one, so they let us drive underneath it. Wow. And now it was hard for me to take the pictures because I was getting a lump in my throat as I was going. Like this doesn't exist anymore. But the imagery was pretty real. And so on this bridge, you're where you're standing is actually on the second floor of a 3-story room, and the screens on the outside are it looks like an IMAX movie theater.
Right. Sure.
In almost 360 degrees. So if you stand inside the bridge, it looks real. If you go out on the bridge, outside, you can look around and see the floor and get grounded and realize that you're really.
But I mean, it's
it looks it's to scale. It's 100%,
110 degrees or whatever, more than 180. Wow.
So really a good experience. The teachers, I'll stop sharing that. The teachers had a great time to be able to learn and experience those things.
Wow.
And each one of them were saying, "Hey, I had no clue. I could configure something related to the ships, or as far as jobs, something related to the ships, or truck driving is easy to identify, but didn't they walked away learning that there's a whole heck of a lot more career opportunities that exist in the port."
And I'm glad you said that, because that was going to be one of my questions. How many? Oh, I didn't know this. Did you get?
Right.
How much?
There's quite a bit. So if you think about, sure, there's manual labor that's associated with moving materials, but for every move like that, there's going to be some type of business process or decision that has to travel with
paperwork, certifications.
There's planning. There's the quality aspect. So somebody can go through and just focus on quality for quality control. One of the teachers this past week was an IT teacher, and so somebody might go and say, oh, "Wait, what does IT have to do with maritime?
Computers run everything."
That's where we're at, and so what
You're not running a whole port without computers.
Correct.
You're not doing inventory without computers. You're not doing scheduling without.
So what I explained to him, I go, you're teaching coding, and some kid can come along and learn coding and make a whole bunch of money. But if they come in and not only learn coding, but if they learn a specific industry sector like warehousing and distribution, they can then go and do coding to create databases that are specialized to that particular process. Meaning, hey, I know the coding, and I understand how this particular warehouse operates. So I'm going to build a customized database for how that warehouse operates, and it'll be so much better than a canned solution that you can download or
buy off the shelf that you're paying
it's
hundreds
not to
of
say that
thousands of dollars for
right.
a license, and
it's not to say that those canned products are not good.
Right, but maybe you want your business is, well, a little bit, I bought this thing and it's great, but if it could do these 3 or 4 other things and track these segments or whatever, and hey, Joey, can you,
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. And so I explained to this teacher, if you come in and you learn the industry and then you learn the coding that helps support that, you're going to make exponentially more because you have the ability to create a customized product for that company that is meaningful. So again, like you can fit lots and lot, if you think that there is a particular job in another industry, it probably exists within the maritime and transportation logistics industries.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, kind of funny if we listed every job like with a bullet point, right? Just start the podcast. All right, here we are, right? We're listing every job that's involved with the port, and people will be falling asleep, because there's so much to do.
Correct.
The podcast would be 4.5 hours long.
No, you joke, but there were 3 or 4 different companies that we stopped at. Steinweg out there at the entrance of the Fort McHenry. They put up a slide like that had
one.
Had a whole bunch of here are all the different kinds of positions that we hire for, and it filled up that one slide, and
that's just one company.
Correct.
And they don't. And just from me watching, I mean, it's not like there's a ship there every day either.
Right.
Right.
Just because they're, yes, they're part of shipping, and you can see that there are business moves when a ship comes in, but there were no ships in on Thursday when we visited, and they were busy. Like there was stuff that was happening. So
yeah, because let's say you unload a whole ship. Maybe it's not, right? Maybe it's the UPS model that I keep talking about. They're not the ship doesn't just come here just to come here. It probably goes somewhere else. But let's say you unload a whole ship, or, now your warehouse is full. Now how do you organize that? How do you schedule what goes out on which trucks and on which day? And yeah.
So there's just kind of a wrap up on that. So the teachers went through and they had this experience, had a chance to speak with a lot of C-suite members of these organizations that told the firsthand knowledge. Here's who we are. These are the jobs that we're hiring for. Here are the things that the job seekers need to know or do in order to get these jobs. So it was pretty detailed. In summary, really the biggest thing that employers told the educators this week is really the focus on the soft and critical skills. You have to be able to want to work, show up on time, and have a good attitude and be willing to learn. And all of the technical stuff, the companies are all saying, we'll teach you what to do.
Yeah.
We'll be glad to get you to where you need to be. You just need to have the aptitude to be able to work in the environment. And so that, just that alone is encouragement for, those job seekers who are looking for something.
Hey, so real quickly, I've got, well, I don't know if I want to show all 3 minutes of this, but so we have shipbuilding in Maryland.
Oh, yes, yes.
We do. And they built 20 tugboats for local Vane Brothers. Now, the contract is done and they don't do that anymore, but they built 20 tugboats for Vane Brothers. Well, this company, Chesapeake Shipbuilding, is owned by, the same family owns them that owns American Cruise Lines, which are those river ships, those small river ships that we even see here. And they have a whole cruise business doing river cruises. So every once in a while, they launch one of these things down in Salisbury. So let me see if I can show you this. So this is kind of cool. All right, here we go.
Those are always cool to watch.
All right, let me see if I can get. Oh, it's not. Come on. There we go. Okay, here's the other angle.
Oh, here's the okay, good. Yeah.
So this is a catamaran,
Mm-hmm.
smallish catamaran ship. But some of the ships that they launch there, they launch in two different halves. Then they have to like weld it together.
Well, yeah, because they're so big.
Come on.
Ah, the joys of technology. It'll come.
So obviously,
there it goes.
There we go. There we go.
So it has it on the ship is on these little rails, and they release the brake, and it slides down, and the little carts that are underneath it, they go in and retrieve afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wanted to throw that in there real quick because it's not every day.
Did you see
Hang on, sorry. It's not every day that you see a ship launch like that. So I wanted to throw that in there real quick if we could.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Our cool friends down the bay.
And that's interesting. Another company with like zero social media presence. So, a lot of what we do is we share information that companies or other people share or see, right? And then when you have these companies that don't have a social media presence, you're kind of relying on somebody to. Now that was, I forget, that was like Wycomico County Facebook page.
Yeah.
But you rely on somebody that's coming by in their boat or whatever to take a picture of what's that Gen ship, which is right next to Domino Sugar that you said, coming up on their 100th anniversary.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on an hour here. One last thing. Let's cover this HAZMAT article from Baltimore Banner.
Sure.
And I wish I could get to it really quick. I don't know if I. So anyway, something along the lines of, a disaster waiting to happen. See, here we are with the dramatics, right? Influx of trucks into Baltimore tunnels raised concern about illegal hazmat transport. Baltimore Banner observed 40 tanker trucks going through the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel, including more than a dozen with hazmat placards, typically prohibited from driving through the underpass. Now, you heard from some industry folks that
didn't
agree with that assessment?
Yeah, they're the Maryland Motor Truck Association, so they're the state association that supports the the trucking industry in the state, and they do handle trucking compliance and rules and regulations related to that in support of the trucking industry. And they had sent out a message in response to the article that had said, and it was catered more towards direct trucking industry to say,
right,
we've reached out to the Banner and have provided information that that tells the whole story of what's going on, and it was not addressed or not responded to, and they'd sent multiple times. So their correspondence out to their membership was don't engage, because there's a number of statements that needed to be addressed with that. But I think it's also important for to say what's really happening here, kind of give a perspective of for this is a delicate issue, and if there are violators, then those violations need to be addressed. But there's a couple of things too to consider, that not every tanker going through the tunnel is a hazardous transport.
Right, because those placards, right, So just because you see, and so the placard has all these different settings and it flips to all this different stuff, right? And so it's up to, I don't know, the company or the driver, I have no idea, to get that placard right. And just because the placards, because they can flip it over so it's blank and it's like closed or there's no information, right? It's like, it's just whatever it is, stainless, whatever. No, like galvanized.
That's part of that's part of their pre-trip inspection process to make sure that the placard is representing properly for the.
So
for the
just
visual.
because something's on that placard doesn't necessarily mean it's hazardous. Is that true?
It's quite possible. I mean, if somebody doesn't check it, they've emptied out their load and it's empty and there's nothing in it, and they don't move the placard back, then I mean that's not.
So then fumes don't qualify then.
It's different. It's specific to the products. So
maybe an empty gas tanker would be still.
Oh, yes, and I'm not the subject matter expert on the amount.
That's why I'm asking.
So where I looked at, the first thing I looked at COMAR, and so that's the code of state regulations for the state of Maryland. And there is a section for under transportation. I think it's chapter 7 or 17. I think it's chapter 17 for transportation. When you dive down into that, it talks about regulations for tunnels in the state and what products can and can't be transported. So things like propane propane can come through as long as it's under 10 pounds in a tank.
I thought so. The little gas bottles that we use for our grills.
Yeah, that's under 10 pounds. If it's under 10 pounds, you can take it.
Oh, see, I thought those were just de facto illegal in the tunnel. I
don't know. While we're chatting here, let's pull it up.
Well, this is cool because we're learning. So we're gonna. So if I could, I wanted to highlight this conversation because somebody posted this this article in the Facebook in our Shipwatchers group, and there was a conversation, and somebody said, "Well, we see tankers in the tunnel every day. The police don't pull them over." And I guess what's behind that is that, well, they don't have to pull them all over, and just because there's a placard doesn't mean it's hazardous material. And then there's hazardous material that's accepted and not accepted. I didn't know any of that. So I wanted to highlight this conversation because it taught me something.
I mean, you could have a tanker going through with milk. That's not hazardous. It'd be, if the thing flipped.
Yeah, hang on. So somebody responded, not all tankers are hazardous materials or carry hazardous materials. There's milk, water, food grade products, bulk carrier powders, liquids that are safe. And this person said they had stepped up enforcement and have cameras and more signage. Turnarounds are clearly marked. Like if you made a mistake and you are hazardous and you can't go through the tunnel, there's a place to make a UE.
Yes, that is correct.
And then this person responded, I thought this was kind of cute. Well, this one looks pretty hazmat-y to me. And I guess because, and I probably didn't know the differentiation between, you see the placard, which ones are acceptable, which ones aren't. And this person said, well, that's 1993, the code. That's diesel fuel or fuel oil, which is allowed. It's a class 2 hazmat that is flammable, but it's not highly flammable like gasoline, which is class 3, or propane or toxic like some other materials. So there's a whole host of graduations of stuff that you're not worried about. And then within flammables, there's stuff that's acceptable and stuff that isn't. So and I don't think I knew that.
So I just pulled up COMAR.
And why the heck are you guys talking about? Right? Why the heck are you guys talking about hazardous materials in a tunnel. What does that have to do with the port? Well,
yes,
the Kipp Bridge wasn't down. Most of this stuff that's not acceptable is going over the Kipp Bridge.
correct.
Okay, wanted to cover that.
And that's the reason why they're rebuilding it as a bridge and not a tunnel, is because they needed a federal lane on that side of the beltway in order to be able to move the hazmat. So
right.
Chapter 11. So correcting myself there, it's Chapter 11 in Comar. And then when you drill down into the subchapter 7, which is the MTA section, and then go into tunnel restrictions. All right, so they don't regulate fuel for fuel systems in the vehicles. So somebody might say, well, how come you can drive through it but you can't tote it? That's tied to the actual vehicle. And there is a small enough amount in what should be a small amount enough amount in a tank in a vehicle to where that's not really the issue. So for forbidden materials and forbidden explosives are prohibited. Class 1 explosives are prohibited. The Class 2 flammable gases are prohibited, with the exceptions for propane, a bunch of propane gases, the LPG, CNG, LNG,
ABC, CNN, no.
Yeah, right. And other flammable compressed gas in approved containers are okay. Quantities not to exceed 10 pounds gross weight per container and 100 pounds gross weight per vehicle. So some very specific things that say that there are certain allowances. The non-flammable compressed gas is prohibited. So argon, carbon dioxide, helium, nitrogen, that's your big tank bottles that you see delivered sometimes.
The big tall steel ones that are 5 or 6 feet tall or something.
Class 2 poisonous gases. Class 3 flammable liquid is prohibited, with the exceptions of motor fuel, petroleum-based products in USDOT or UL approved containers. Not to exceed 5 gallons or 20 gallons per vehicle. So
it is pretty specific.
Very specific.
Pretty spelled out.
Class 4.
And then obviously you're not just some random guy with some random stuff. If you're hauling any of this stuff, everybody at the company that that you work for knows what this stuff is.
Correct.
Knows where it falls into that. It's not like, all of a sudden, Joe Smith gets hired to just drive this. It's not. It sounds like an awful lot, but
right.
The people who are hauling this stuff already know all this stuff.
Also, keep in mind that on both, this is a sensitive issue, and you have MTA police that are stationed at both ends of the tunnels. I go through the Harbor Tunnel every day back and forth to work. And every day I'm sitting in that 5-mile-an-hour line to go through it. And every day I pass the cop on both ends of the tunnel right there at the inspection station.
That might be one of his most important jobs.
Is just sitting there looking, is it going? Now, I did get behind a tanker a couple of weeks ago, and this, in my mind, I'm going, what's going on here? And as soon as he went over one of the bumps going into the tunnel, and I realized, oh, he is completely empty.
Right, because you saw it bounce.
Because I saw it bounce, and I'm paying attention enough to it to know it. He's empty. There's no regulation there because there's no product in there. So carry on.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So I think there's a lot to learn. There's a lot.
And I meant just the port. You know what I mean? I mean,
sure.
But even within this small segment, of course, there's a lot.
Small microcosm, and there's some very specific things and regulations that have to be addressed and adhered to. And if there are people who are trying to skirt it, it needs to stop. If it's just a matter of the general public not fully understanding that empties can go through, but the actual chemicals themselves, and be mindful of that, that's this an opportunity to learn a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. So we are at we're over an hour here.
Okay.
You got anything else? I think I'm
done for right this minute.
yeah, I'm all out. I'm all out.
Eh,
I'm on empty.
it's all right.
Or so
There'll be more this week.
so our document says I'm on empty. So in closing, don't forget your Facebook group, Baltimore and Chesapeake Bay Shipwatchers. We have approaching 16,000 members, people who are just fascinated with everything that goes on with the port. We have a lot of information there, job information, lots of great photos, some really good conversations. It is a nice place. It's not a cesspool of snarkiness and nastiness that the rest of the internet is. And frankly, I won't have it. So it is a nice place. There's families and kids, people in there that are fascinated with this stuff, and everybody learns a lot. So we've got the website, Baltimore Chesapeake Bay Shipwatchers, and then on there's a link to the web stream live cam. There's a swag tab. Does that make? Did I just come up with a swag tag? Swag tab, a tab on the website that takes you to the swag.
You need to change your website tab to say swag tab.
Swag tab. I could do that in 5 minutes. That would be kind of funny. So a tab to go to the swag website, where you can order t-shirts, hats, and one of these coffee cups with our cool Kipp Bridge logo that we ironically came up with a couple of years ago. And then on the other side is our trademark logo that you've probably seen. So 5 or 6 different kinds of t-shirts and all different kind of shapes and sizes, and ladies t-shirts, v-necks, again, hats, coffee cups, and you can just go right ahead and order that, and it comes right to your house. Links to ship schedules, maps of the port, so you can kind of see and figure out what's going on. We're also on Twix. Shout out Amy Lawrence. She's going to find out about one of these shout outs, one that somebody's using her Twix moniker. And so Twix, Instagram, and YouTube is all Balto Ches is what our account name is. So please,
and if you are like me, listening to the audio versions of things going through the tunnel every day, you can pick us up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Very cool. Thank you. So you're watching on YouTube. Pound that like button for us. I appreciate everybody's viewing the podcast, but be a little bit more beneficial if you could just pound that like button, or maybe you don't like it and you're crazy and you keep watching. I don't know.
That happens too.
Subscribe and hit the bell so you can be alerted to new podcasts as they come available.
Okay.
So that sounds good. Week 11. So I think, last week when we tried to do our happy ship watching closing, I thought we were really close. And then there's some delay. I don't know. We're going to have to figure it out. I'll count the 2 and go. You count the 3 and go, and then it'll match up. So when we saw the actual podcast, I thought we were like really close. I thought we did a really good job. And then you listen to it and it's like, and we're like a half a second off. It's still not good. Anyway, so I'll do it.
Okay.
Happy ship watching, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great. Have a good week.